lot of things. Too many to mention here, but I do want to take this time to say that I hope that you create your own happiness and that you become a healthy and whole individual during this season and beyond. I wish that for your family as well. My name is Christal, and celebrating or not, have a wonderful season. Stay grateful and take care.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And we're back, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're listening to Ari, and next to me in studio is Christal. And this morning we're talking about the Argyle International Airport peace talks yesterday and what had transpired between the media, and also we're going to talk about the 11-point agreement that was the result of the three-leg marathon talks. So this morning, we're going to touch base with Eyewitness News journalist Kenton Chance. Kenton would be telling us what exactly his experience was yesterday and hopefully how we can improve with the protocols going forward. So right now we're just touching base with Kenton Chance at the moment.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kenton.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
I'm great. So you're live on here at WEFM's Activated Mornings this morning, and we were just talking about the media chaos that you reported happened yesterday. So we wanted to know exactly what happened and how do you think things will be improved going forward?
Okay, well, good morning, Ari, and good morning to your listeners. The truth is, I cannot speak to what took place on the tarmac because by the time I get to the airport, most of that had already happened.
Okay.
And the reason why I missed that, and I'm somewhat glad that I missed all that drama, is because as I said in this story, I mean, let me go back a little by saying, I have had the good fortune during my 20-year career in the media of covering quite a few regional and international conferences and summits. And I have never, ever reported on one, including those held here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where the media relations were as bad. And like I said yesterday to somebody, if I were to give a grade for this, it would be a big fat F for fail. On Monday, the Agency for Public Information sent the media a memorandum from the Office of the Prime Minister saying that we were to submit the names of people who are going to be accredited. The first thing that I found strange is that we had up to Wednesday to send in those names. Because I'm thinking, well, what about the preparation of badges and all of these things? There was no information about where the event was going to be taking place, but I had heard that it was going to be, excuse me, at AIA on Wednesday. The Prime Minister was on air. I asked about the location. I submitted a question. The host asked about the location. The Prime Minister said he was not revealing it. But I was hearing that it was at the airport. But, sometimes you hear things and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I was waiting for an official something about the location of this thing. So I woke up yesterday morning around 5:30. I went to check my email. I checked WhatsApp. There was nothing there. I started to make calls. I made a post on Facebook that I understand that it offended somebody who probably got into their feelings and decided that they were not going to tell me anything. But if by Thursday morning you haven't told me anything, you had no intentions of telling me anything. And I want to make this point that people must learn to do their jobs and come out of their feelings. You should not do your job based on how you feel about a person or based on the way that the person executes their job, especially somebody in the media. But To cut a long story short, around 8 o'clock, I finally was able to reach by phone somebody who's in the government's communication apparatus. And they told me that the thing was happening at Argyle and that the delegates, the officials would arrive between 8 and 9. I live in Raylan Hill. By the time I drive to Argyle, it's almost an hour. I got to Argyle just around 9 o'clock. When I got there, at the police security. And by the way, just so that people know, I expected that the security at the airport to be extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
The airport in and of itself is a secure location. Then you're having several heads of government from across the region. You're having the president of Venezuela. I expect that the security perimeter would be the entire airport. And when I say the entire airport, not just the aerodrome, but the areas around the airport, including the access roads and all of these things. So I expected that. I found out the police officer and said, "Oh, good morning, Mr. Chance. I know that you're a journalist, but I have a list here. I have to check the list." The gentleman checks the list. He says, "My name is not there." He gets on his phone. He's trying to call this and call that. He asks him to park in the median while he does this and so that other vehicles can be very professional and cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
After about 15 minutes of that, I said to him, I said, "Look, if it's not a problem, I don't have a problem parking my vehicle on the main road and walking down." He said, "Well, if you don't mind doing that, that is not a problem." I asked him, "But what do I do when I go down there?" He says, "Well, talk to somebody down there." I parked my vehicle, and just to back up a little, I had expected that for something like this, what would be done is that the government would organize a press van. So we'd probably go into Kingston for a particular time. They would pick us up at that time, take us to the airport. So all of us, we can go through security at the same time. Those who live in the area can meet us at the airport at that time. Those of us who are coming from the Leeward, as myself and Kingston, can go in a press van to the airport so that we all get there on time. Anyways,
Kenton, just a quick
airport.
question. So where
Sure.
would that leave regional, international media houses?
Well, the logistics for the regional and international media entities will be handled differently.
Okay.
Because most of them came in either the day before or on the day of the event. So generally, you would have different provisions. Well, this is my understanding of how these things work for the different media entities. So you might have somebody liaising directly with the regional international media, and especially in this case where you have Venezuelan media. There might be a language consideration, there, cultural consideration. And in the government apparatus, I saw protocol officers there. I saw one person who I believe was an interpreter. But in terms, as you would appreciate, I could be a protocol officer, but that doesn't mean I understand how media operates and what media people would want.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to the airport, I went to the security, and the gentleman is telling me, "Well, there's general media, and there are people who like taking pictures and videos and live and whatever. And you are in the general media." I said, "I'm in the general media." I said, "But I need to take my pictures." And, there was I'm asking some questions about what general media is and all. And by the way, and I hate to have to say this because it should be expected, in all of my interactions with the police, the airport staff, the office of the Prime Minister, the public service staff at the office of the Prime Minister, very professional. So after some to and fro, I was there, another journalist who I had been liaising with on the morning. He arrived at the same time as me. I hope he doesn't mind me calling his name is Dale De Silva.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were there trying to get somewhere to find out, about this general media thing. How do we get access to the tarmac and what have you? We were escorted down to the tarmac by a very senior government official. And I even asked a question about, does this person take somebody else into that secure area? Well, they were convinced that they were. I'm not so sure. And I made this point simply to say, I believe in processes rather than personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's based on personality, that's where things would go wrong. And that's why I'm making this point. Because if it was somebody else from the media who had come there, would that person, that government official, also have the same have escorted them down to the tarmac. So the system must be in place so that regardless of who you are as a person, then you are given the same treatment as every other media person. But by the time I went down to the tarmac, it was towards the tail end of what was going on. I spoke to my colleagues about what had happened, and they told me what had happened on the tarmac. And I wrote this story that I wrote based on my own experience interacting with the various people in the government communications ecosystem, and also my colleagues and other people based on what has happened. But I must say, in my own assessment, is that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as far as media relations are concerned, it suffered a great embarrassment yesterday, a significant embarrassment. We have had a lot of very high-profile events here before, a lot of it handled either by NBC Radio or the Agency for Public Information. And never before have I ever seen this, when nobody knows what is happening. The API doesn't know what is happening. You go to people from the API to ask them, well, what is expected to happen here? Are there press conferences? Are there press engagements? The API doesn't know, and NBC Radio appears not to know. Then we're hearing from Guyana's Department of Public Information that somebody came into their room and briefed them about what is taking place. But we hear from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are not told anything. When we're waiting for the press conference, a lot of personality clashes. Excuse me. One journalist from across the region had to put somebody from the local media, from the local organizing media, a particular person who I think was responsible. They put him in his place and let him know, well, let him know how things are to be done in these kinds of events. And, people have to know what they know and know what they don't know and seek help. Things are not just about personalities and walking around like a peacock, and by the end of the day, you look like a wet dung fowl because, everybody has already dressed you down because you have exposed yourself and your ignorance. And when I say ignorance, your genuine lack of knowledge about how these things should be done.
And
it was
based on your story, right? You're saying that you were able to communicate with communications director Rashad Pitbull Bala, and he indicated to you that Chevrel Candyman Macmillan was the person responsible for media relations in connection to the event. So was he the person that got dressed down?
Harry, a journalist is interviewing a journalist. I mean, I'm trying my best. I don't want to get personal with anybody.
No, but based on the story, it sounds like the person who was in charge of the media protocols is to blame for a lot of the things that happened yesterday. And the question is, how are we going to improve?
I'm going to talk like a politician. I don't know if he is to be blamed, but I understand that he was responsible.
Okay.
So, I might be responsible for getting something done, but it was not done. But I only can accept the blame to the extent that it was not done. But I don't know what systems he might have put in place to get things done. But the mere fact that, I just really, I spoke to Mr. Macmillan. Like he was speaking, I said, Mr. Macmillan, a word, please. He says he's coming back. He came back. And I said, well, I'm trying to get an understanding of what is taking place today. And he says to me, the heads have already arrived, and I didn't see you there. You were late. So I said, well, I can't be late when I responded to the memorandum. Nobody said anything to me. And I had to find out on my own where this event was taking place. He says to me, isn't that what journalists do?
Hey.
So I said to him, Candyman, let's keep this professional, please. Because how can you're having a meeting, you're doing communications on behalf of the government for this meeting, modern communication, media liaison for this meeting. You sent me something to say to register for accreditation. which I did on the same day. As part of my response to that note, I sent my national ID card, a photo of my national ID card, because I appreciate the security involved with this thing. When I go to cover an international conference, most of the time I have to send a photo of my passport. So it's not that I'm unaccustomed to going through these processes or have any objections to them. I know why they are done.
Mm-hmm.
There was not even a mailing list of what was taking place. A lot of the information that we got yesterday, we got it from Guyana's Department of Public Information. And I made a post this morning saying that the Guyana's Department of Public Information showed us in St. Vincent a lot of the things that I complain about and talk about a lot, that people dismiss and say, oh, Kenton thinks he knows everything and he's just full of himself. But these are just standard things that you expect at a summit of this nature. It was not a meeting. It was more than a meeting. It was essentially a summit.
Yeah, and there are a lot of leaders
And
there.
you expect that at something of this magnitude, that certain things should be done. And a lot of those things that should have been done yesterday were not done. When you have people from the government press, you have journalists stand up waiting for an hour for press conference to start. There's nothing strange about that. I've gone to CARICOM press summits where you have to wait 3 hours for press conference to start. But people waiting for an hour. A lady standing up in the area doing a video. You want to ask her to move. She asks you for a few minutes more, a minute more. And you're convinced that she should move now. But you go in front of her when she is doing the video recording and wave your hands in her face. And then after she gets angry and she moves, obviously she's going to get annoyed by that. She moves. We're still waiting another half an hour before the event starts. I mean, these kinds of events, when somebody is doing work on behalf of a government, it calls for a lot of diplomacy. And when you're interacting with journalists especially, you have to be especially careful, because a real journalist will write the story that is there. If I had been given the information and I had gotten to Argyle at 7 o'clock, I might have written, and those things had not happened with the pushing and the shoving and what have you. Most likely I would have written a totally different story than the one I wrote yesterday. I did not go there looking for quote-unquote negativity. And I often tell people, in all of my training and experience in journalism, I've never been taught how to distinguish negative news and positive news. I've been taught to what is news. Mm-hmm. And when I went there yesterday, what I wrote was the news that was there. 2 hours after I published my article, I published a similar article with some very telling photographs of what happened yesterday. I understand that somebody in the government, in the executive arm of our government, shouted twice or had to speak harshly or firmly to somebody in the security apparatus about what was going on. And based on what my colleagues said, that person then overreacted in their interactions with the journalists. But these things can be handled very simply. Send an email. Colleagues, can you please come to the airport for 7 o'clock so that we can go through the security clearance, and then we will take it on airside at such and such a time. A cordon will be set up. You are not allowed to go beyond this cordon. This is the secure area. Beyond this cordon is the secure area for the dignitaries. You are not allowed to go beyond that area. And you could even say, if you go beyond that area, you would be denied further access to the facilities. Set these things out up front. Simple. So that people know what is what. But my view is that some people see their jobs as an opportunity to punish and reward who they don't like in the media, whose work they don't like. But I say to people, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, which I'm often accused of being, I'm a journalist. Nobody can stop me from doing my job. My job is to write news, and I would write the news story that I see. It might not be the one that you like. And if you don't want me to write that one, don't create the circumstances that would cause me to write that story. Because when I went there yesterday, I didn't just go there to cover these talks, this summit for eyewitnesses. There was regional media who were depending on me. I didn't go there looking for trouble and to make people look bad or anything. I just went there to do my job, and that's all I want as a journalist. That's all I want, to be allowed to do my job, and that's pretty much it.
All
It's
right.
the chance. Before you go, right? Just to make a quick stop right here. It's 8:03 this morning's time check was brought to you. Compliments New Haven Funeral Home, and we'll play the advert after we conclude with you. I have just a few questions.
So
Firstly, before the actual event, you had a particular experience with communication. Are you aware of any other entity that had similar experiences?
when you say similar experiences, what do you mean?
As in, you were not able to get certain information prior to getting to the
Well,
airport.
I called a colleague yesterday morning, and I don't want to say their name, and they told me that they received a call at, from somebody within the government's communications ecosystem on Thursday, telling them to go to the airport for 7 o'clock. So it is my firm belief, and I have no reason to believe that that person is lying, that some people were told to go to the airport for 7 o'clock and others were told nothing.
Okay. So, based on a statement you made, are you taking this entire situation personal?
Well, I don't take anything personal. I don't take things personally. And I said to my colleague yesterday, I can't understand how journalists who on a daily basis publish things that people would rather not be published, to be personally offended by certain things. I did my work yesterday. All I am saying is that there's an expression. You know, sometimes in trying to there's an expression in my head, but it's not a polite one for radio. So I'm trying to, put it into polite conversation. But sometimes in trying to expose other people, we leave ourselves overexposed. I often say, right, you can't hold somebody down without staying down with them.
That's true.
And I'm saying, if I'm gonna do my job in such a way where I say, well, I think, but I'm gonna spite this person. You're you're gonna just only end up spiting yourself.
Okay. And finally, for me, sorry, go ahead.
Mhm. And especially a journalist like Kent and Chance, I am gonna write the story that is there.
All right.
And that story yesterday did not have to be written either by me or by Searchlight. If people, and not just the people in the communications ecosystem, but the people with the security and all of that, if people had done their jobs correctly.
Are you going to do any more stories on yesterday's event?
Well, I can't immediately think of any other story I need to write about the event yesterday itself. I mean, there's a video I'm working on a statement that President Ali said, and that's just, by the way, for the record. But I can't think of any other story. Like I said, I wrote the stories that I thought were there. The event yesterday was the summit, but I had a conversation with some people, and I would appreciate this as somebody who recently completed his studies in communication. There's a story that said that an editor sent a young reporter to cover a meeting. The reporter came back and the editor said, what's the story? The young reporter said, oh, there's no story there. The people just started to cross each other and didn't discuss it.
That's the story.
The editor told him, that's the story. That's a story that if they had a regular meeting. But the reporter didn't go there and cause confusion for them to cross. He just went there and that's what he saw and that's what he wrote. And that's what I do as a journalist. I go and what I see, whatever happens, that's what I write. So I hope the people who are in the communications ecosystem for the government, we have a lot of very experienced media people here. I saw Teresa Daniel there. I mentioned to somebody could have asked Teresa a question. I asked Miss Daniel a question, how do I deal with this? What do you suggest? I saw Miss Dion John, who used to be the director of API and who coordinated the media on many occasions before on these types of events. I don't know if anybody asked anything. There's Jennifer Richardson, who's a former director of the API. I don't know if anybody asked anything. But if communications director, who, based on my understanding of how these things should go, is higher than press officer, seems not to know. And the director of the API, who, based on my understanding, is higher than press officers, doesn't seem to know. Something is wrong.
No,
Something is wrong.
Kenton, we have like roughly 2 minutes. We're already over time, but we have like roughly 2 minutes to wrap up. I just have one question, right? And it's something that I said earlier. The press officer who's in charge of liaising with the media, when it is that a report comes out of Barbados and reports come out of Guyana as to what the location will be, and you said that the Guyana press convoy was briefed, is it not your responsibility as the press officer to either confirm or deny it to the local media in which you are liaising?
Well, of course. I mean, even if you have a time, if you're saying, well, we're not going to disclose the location before 6 o'clock on Thursday morning. When 6 o'clock on Thursday morning comes, you send out your stuff. You don't care what was said in the media before. Then it becomes official. For me, until the government said the location is, and the government up to now has not said, as far as I know, that the location is Argyle. At least nobody has told me so. And I've not seen it in any communication from any government office.
Okay. Well,
so I went to Argyle based on unofficial information.
Yeah, and that's what I gathered from your story. Okay, Kenton, thanks for joining us this morning. As you know, you're someone that I met in the media field, and you're somebody that I respect as a senior, and I was surprised to see the happenings in your story and from Searchlight as well, because they're two different stories, but it's the same problems.
And the two of them talk about the chaos.
Yeah.
So it was not manufactured.
Yeah, because Searchlight spoke about what happened with the commissioner getting involved and media people shouting and in shout screaming matches with the police and a bunch of different stuff, apart from what you already discussed with the lack of information.
From but they were there and they wrote it first time.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us this morning and presenting this information.
All right. Take care, Aaron Christal.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks.
All right. So the time is now 8:10 and the time check was brought to you by New Haven Funeral Home.